All right, so the political silly season is here. It's on like Donkey Kong, and we have at least one declared candidate in the Republican primary, and it's not Mike Whatley yet because Whatley has not announced yet. But my friend Don Brown announced a while back that he is running for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate, and Don joins me live in the studio this morning. He's an author of 16 books. He's a former JAG officer. You probably have seen him on Sean Hannity or Fox and Friends. You've been everywhere, haven't you?
Well, but nothing's like Talk of the Town, man.
Exactly, man.
I'm home when I'm on Talk of the Town, and it feels better than any of those places, with no disrespect to any of those folks.
You still living in Charlotte?
In Union County, in Waxhaw. Charlotte got too Democrat for me, but I got a lot of friends in Charlotte, but work in and out of Charlotte. But I live in Waxhaw, North Carolina. Beautiful town, right? You've probably been there. If not, we'll have to have you there.
I don't think so. Where's Waxhaw's?
It's the southern part of Union County. In fact, Waxhaw and Lancaster, South Carolina, both claim to be the birthplace of Andy Jackson, who was born somewhere in that area, either on the north or the South Carolina side of the border. But it's a great little town, and we really love it.
All right, you announced months ago that you were going to run, but you thought Tillis was in the race. You had you were one of the Republicans that had real problems with Thom Tillis. And we could talk about that, but I mean, it's kind of fruitless at this point.
It is.
But, I mean, was that your main motivation for getting in?
Yes, I think to a large degree. First of all, it became clear to me I didn't believe the senator was going to get reelected. And ever since, really, this was not on my radar, running for the U.S. Senate. You got to be crazy to run for the U.S. Senate, right? So I guess crazy people do that. But it sort of morphed into that. I'd run for the Congress last time, did pretty well. We jumped in very, very late, and my opponents' supporters were urging me to run for the Senate, but and I wound up running. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back is Pete Hegseth is a friend of mine, and then when the senator at the last minute tried to torpedo that nomination, here we are. But in the time since then, between our really declaring back in late February and the senator dropping out, I've probably been in 35 counties or so, or maybe more. And it was very clear that the senator was in trouble with Republican grassroots. And so he made a decision to leave the race and around the end of June. And so that was the motivating factor. Yeah,
that Carolina Journal poll was pretty damning for Tillis, unfortunately. 26% of Republicans supported him. But I said two things would change that if Tillis had stayed in. I said Cooper getting in would change it some, but what would really change it would be a Trump endorsement. And I was talking to Thom off and on, and he kept telling me he thought Trump was going to – he said, ultimately, I think Trump will endorse me. But then they had the problem with the big, beautiful bill, and Trump started firing missiles, which he
which do that, right?
Which were insurmountable at that point. So I don't know. I don't know whether he would have gotten it or not, but here's what I do know. Mike Whatley is now in the race. Laura Trump. Now, you told me over the weekend that if Laura Trump had run, you would have backed out.
Yeah, and I was mentioning I'd been on Bo and Beth's show up in Charlotte earlier this morning. They interviewed me.
WBT?
Yeah.
You were on this morning?
They were, yeah, just before you, 7:30. And they interviewed me on July 17th, and I told them there was one name that would be a definite game changer. That was Laura Trump. Yeah. And if Laura Trump had decided to go for it, I really didn't think she was going to. But if she had, I think it would have unified the party like nothing we'd seen. I'd be at the beach, man. You just got back from the battle. You look good, man, tan and slim. When Miami Vice says the new auditions, you ought to step into the Don Johnson role, brother. But
I'm no Don Johnson, trust me.
You're better. But anyway, but she would have unified the party immediately, and I would have been glad to go into the beach and struck up a Macanudo or a Monte Cristo or maybe a Perdomo or something else. But here we are, and
so you don't feel that way about Whatley?
Well, I can say this: our initial gauge is that it is not nearly as popular a pick as Laura Trump would have been. There are a lot
of course, yeah.
I was speaking for example, in Wake County, the Western Wake Republican Club. Sandy Joyner at that time was the president. Now she's the chair of Wake County. And speaking that evening, March 24th, some guys came in, some Republican attorneys who had been over to a fundraiser at the Carolina Country Club and announced that Whatley had come and had endorsed Tillis. I'm going, what? So there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect. Of course, Mike's been in Washington a lot. He's a good guy, I'm sure, but he's in Washington a lot. He was NC chair. And so there seems to be a disconnect with a lot of North Carolina voters because of that endorsement and some other things as well. So we're still in the race right now. So
So you intend to stay in?
Then stay in.
All right. It's going to take a lot of money.
Money.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Whatley's going to have money because he knows how to.
Right.
He knows where all the money is. He's been
does.
raising money in North Carolina for a long, and out of North Carolina
Right.
now.
Exactly.
So he's going to have bukus of money. How do you offset that?
I'm going to name Henry Hinton as my finance chair. I'm going to take from Henry Hinton.
If elected, I will not serve. If elected, I will not serve.
We're going to take it one step at a time. Clearly, the people are predicting. I heard $1 billion. I've heard millions. You heard all kinds of astronomical numbers. It's going to take a lot of money. I think most of that money is going to be spent probably after the primary.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to raise some money. If by the grace of God we were to get the nomination, the real challenge is going to be after the primary because the Democrats are going to throw so much into this race.
Are you going to start hearing that you're part of the problem, that the money needs to? The Democrats have all rallied around Roy Cooper, and now the Republicans are infighting, and they got to spend money. Whatley or you, whoever's going to win, is going to have to spend money to win the primary.
Well, Whatley's probably not going to spend any money against me in the short term because you have institutional media already coronating him as the nominee. As Cooper versus Whatley, and they got to sell ads, they got to draw ratings. So, but yeah, the more that we pick up steam, the more darts are going to be thrown at us for sure.
Yeah.
So, but it's about saving the country, Henry. We've got a $37 trillion national debt. I've been talking about issues since February. We've got to attack the deep state. We've got to take it down. I want to take the IRS out. I want to end the Internal Revenue Service. I want to end the federal income tax system that we have. So we've got some bold initiatives that I want to fight for on the floor of the U.S. Senate that go above beyond personality and politics and even political strategy, like where's the money coming from.
So your first comment about your platform is the $37 trillion national debt.
Right.
So how'd you feel about the big beautiful bill that the CBO says is going to add $3 trillion?
Well, first of all, I don't trust the CBO. Okay, I mean it's a Democrat organization.
They argue they're not, by the way.
Of course they do. All these,
they say they're bipartisan.
It's like the News and Observer saying it's bipartisan. I heard you taking a shot at our favorite communist rag on the eastern part of the state.
It wasn't a shot. It was fact.
It was a fact, and it was a well-timed play shot. The Charlotte Observer doesn't have a building anymore. I guess the NNO still has a building, but whatever. McClatchy papers, but
barely.
Yeah, but the big beautiful bill. There are elements that absolutely had to be passed. The border's got to be secure. We've lost our shipbuilding. Has gone to hell in a handbasket under the Democrats. We're now trailing the Chinese. We got to have cybersecurity. It does spend too much money, and they're trying to claw back some of that with these rescission packages. But listen. If you study world history, every great power on the face of the planet, from the Romans who had the denarius to the Dutch who had the gelding, the Spanish had the peso, the British had the pound sterling, which yielded the U.S. dollar at Bretton Woods, have had the dominant currency in the world. A few years ago, I was in Belarus. I can speak a little Russian with a redneck accent if you want to hear it, but I was over there with our church. We were trying to get a kid out of that country, and I actually met with the Secretary of Education, a guy named Georgy Alexeyevich Buterin. But while I was there for 10 days, we were trying to get the kid out so that he could be adopted with his natural parents, siblings who'd been adopted in Charlotte. I was going through this little area, and they were selling wares like, pieces of art and clothing. There was this Russian chess set. I wanted to buy it because I play a little chess. I pulled out a $20 bill, Henry, and those people went, wow. Why is that? Because the U.S. dollar is such a dominant currency. And if we lose the dollar, at some point we will fall as fast as the British fell after Bretton Woods. So we have to attack the national debt. So my desire to run is not business as usual. If I'm willing to run and lose after the first term, that's what it means, because we got kids and grandkids we got to protect, and if we don't bring this national debt under control, we're going to lose it all. We won't be an economic superpower. We won't be a military superpower. Business as usual is not going to get the job done.
I don't want to belabor the big beautiful bill, but the hill that Tillis died on was Medicaid expansion.
Yeah, right.
650,000 people additional added to Medicaid expansion. It seemed like and again, this is just my opinion, it seemed like the House version was good, and then the Senate went in there and did some stuff that made the bill very damaging to places like Eastern North Carolina.
Yeah, right.
You grew up in Eastern North Carolina.
Yeah.
People here don't have health insurance. They need medical care. We've had the president of ECU Health on saying that without Medicaid expansion, they're going to be in big trouble. They're trying to reopen. We have rural hospitals closing. Your hospital in Washington County closed at one point, and we hear that it's teetering on closing again.
Right.
Williamson's hospital closed. ECU Health's trying to get it reopened as an emergency hospital. Can't do it without Medicaid. It's just not going to work. So again, Tillis fought on that and reminded Trump that he said that he wasn't going to screw with Medicaid. What is your opinion of that?
Well, Medicaid expansion from the federal level was a mistake to begin with. That money should be in the hands of the states, not of the federal government. And so, Pat McCrory fought against initially, you were with him probably at that time or knew about this, against Medicaid expansion in North Carolina because he wanted it tied to the work requirement. And a few years later...
It always should have been.
It always should have been. A few years later, I don't know what happened with Senator Berger or whatever, but it expanded in North Carolina. And now when you try to claw back, then it's like you give out the goodies and you take them back, it hurts people. That money needs to go back to the states, and the states need to administer that money. My problem with the national debt is when you look at the national debt, you can always point to something that's valuable, or whether it's Medicaid or whatever it might be, and say, well, if you take that, it's going to hurt somebody, but we're going to hurt everybody if the dollar collapses.
Yeah.
So what I want to see is a vision where the federal government is slimmed down. State and local governments are best suited to serve the needs of those who are in need, not the federal government. I want to shift the money back to the states and let the states decide what to do with it.
All right, I got you on late, so if you can hold through the break.
Yes, sir.
Are you okay?
Absolutely.
We'll take a break and we'll come back. I want to ask you specifically, about the big announcement this morning, the huge, shocking announcement from Roy Cooper this morning, and get your opinion, get your response to that. Don Brown, candidate for U.S. Senate for the Republican nomination for United States Senate, live in the studio with me this morning, 20 to 9. We'll be right back. Okay, Don Brown is live with me in the studio. Don is an old friend. He grew up in eastern North Carolina, now lives in Union County, and he's running for United States Senate. He wants to be the Republican nominee. He's an author also. He's got his latest book is Kangaroo Court. Your big book that became a movie was Extortion 17.
That's correct. That's right.
And that's the movie. That's the book that you wrote about. Didn't you defend? Help me remember this, because the last time you were on my show, that
Right.
book had just come out, I think, and that it was such a big hit that it became a movie.
It did.
You defended a SEAL team member who had been accused of murder, right?
Well, that's a separate case. I've had that was the Lawrence case. That was a
That's right,
82nd Airborne paratrooper who President Trump wound up pardoning. I worked very closely with Pete Hegseth when he was at Fox to get that pardon. The kid had been prosecuted at Fort Bragg for quote-unquote murder because of a firefight that happened in Afghanistan, and the Democrats went after him under Obama's rules of engagement. And so I worked very closely with Pete Hegseth, and President Trump pardoned him. The extortion book was released in 2015. It was about the shoot down of a Chinook helicopter, which had 30 Americans, including 17 members of SEAL Team 6, just 90 days after the Osama bin Laden mission. And I came to the conclusion that those guys either had been deliberately sacrificed or their deaths were the result of criminal negligence by our military. And that book really changed my life, to be honest with you, because I started to see the inside of the federal government in a different light after that.
And that led to the current book, Kangaroo Court. What's this book about?
Well, Kangaroo Court, interesting, is my first sort of non-military book. It's a look at Democrat political prosecutions over the last 30 years. It includes some of the Trump prosecutions that we know about with Jack Smith and Fannie Bragg, but it also goes back to Rick Perry, for example. You may not remember this, was prosecuted by the Democrats when he was governor of Texas just for vetoing a bill, which he can do under the Texas Constitution. Tom DeLay was prosecuted. You may remember that.
Yeah.
The governor of Virginia up here and his wife were prosecuted, and that case went to the U.S. Supreme Court, was reversed 8-0 by the same Jack Smith who tried to prosecute Trump. So it looks at these cases, but not only against political figures, but also against average Americans. You remember the name, maybe you remember Douglas and Patricia Mackey. If you don't, that was the couple in St. Louis when these thugs were breaking into their neighborhood, hold the guns, and this Soros prosecutor, Kim Gardner, goes after them, literally elected by Soros money. And they were former Democrat lawyers, this couple. The woman had a revolver, and she's such a dingbat, the revolver wouldn't even fire. It was unfireable, but the corrupt prosecutor had it re-engineered so that she could charge with a felony. And we look at some of these pro-life dads that got prosecuted after the reversal of Roe v. Wade. And then there's another case, Douglas Mackey, who was a cartoonist. You may remember him. He did an anti-Hillary cartoon in 2016 lampooning Hillary voters as being pretty dumb. And I think they are pretty dumb, actually.
And he got arrested for that?
In 2021, 5 years later, the Obama Justice Department prosecuted him for, intimidating voters. And that's now been reversed But that's the type of stuff the Democrats are doing. They've been bastardizing our political system. So the book
What's really interesting about that, listening to you talk about it, is how you hear the Democrats now talk about how Trump is out of his lane when he goes after Stephen Colbert and The View and, you know, all that stuff.
Well, first of all, there haven't been any prosecutions under Pam Bondi's Department of Justice.
Yeah.
Conservatives want to see that. I mean, you know, she's opened an investigation against Letitia James for mortgage fraud. They're talking about that with Schiff, but I want to see some of these rogue prosecutors feel the heat. Jack Smith and others.
We only got a few minutes left.
Gotcha.
I want to hit a couple of things. Epstein.
Well, I think transparency is the best thing. I think I want to know what billionaire that had sex with some kid has a right to have their identity protected. I want to see him prosecuted.
Do you think Trump's in there somewhere?
I don't think President Trump has any criminal liability at all, because if he did, the Democrats would have leaked that by now. But he was Epstein's friend, so yeah, you'll see his name in files, and he doesn't like that because it'll be embarrassing.
So why make a big deal when you're Pam Bondi about it's sitting on my desk? We're going to release it. Trump campaigned on releasing it, and now they won't release it.
Well, it's the $100,000 mystery, you know. And then they said we're going to release the grand jury transcripts. The judge says no, you can't do it. Look, we're dealing with an international criminal syndicate. We know that Maxwell has been convicted of sex trafficking for minors. Who were the perpetrators of that sex? They should be prosecuted. People want to see that.
And she apparently named names last week to the.
She may have. So let's go after him, Pam Bondi. That's what Trump supporters voted for in part.
Right.
So
all right.
I'd like to see that.
Don Brown running for United States Senate. Roy Cooper has announced this morning. He's put out a 2-minute video talking about how bad Republicans are and all the great things he's done for the state of North Carolina. What's your reaction?
Well, he said he's taught this stand-up speech. I'd like to, the last time I saw my daddy alive, Henry, was looking through the outside of a nursing home in Plymouth, North Carolina, because of one of Cooper's unconstitutional mandates when he kept, dying elderly people away from their family during COVID. He shut the state down. He destroyed the state during COVID. He commuted murderers. He opposed voter ID. He doesn't stand for North Carolina values. We're going to take him down and take him out. He's an easy target.
And he vetoed everything the Republicans did. I mean, women and men and women's sports, transgender surgeries, all the crazy stuff that the left wing is doing. But you're not going to hear anything about that in this campaign. He's not going to campaign on men and women's sports. He's going to pretend that didn't happen. But it did.
If I'm the nominee, I'm following him all over the state, reminding him of his radicalism each and every day. People in North Carolina are not going to forget it. And he's trying to run from it now because he knows he can't get elected on it, but that's who he is. He's a New York liberal living, I don't know where he lives now, but he's been a New York liberal at heart all along.
We got a minute left. Tell my listeners why you are the best choice that they should consider for voting for the Republican nomination for the Tillis seat.
First off, my track record. I'm the only military veteran running as far as we know at this point. I've been involved in battling a lot of the issues that have been important to us. We battled against the election fraud in 2020. We've been involved in medical freedom by COVID vax type stuff where we've taken Savannah River plant to court for Biden's unconstitutional mandates. I've been involved with our military. We're involved with Pete Hegseth in getting a pardon for one young man from President Trump. I'm probably one of the only lawyers in the country who's had 2 pardons from President Trump for political prisoners, represented J6, a kid that was just walked in the Capitol and back. So I've been in the middle of the battle, and I know how to prosecute the case against Cooper. He's going to wish he had never heard of me by the time we're done with him. Whatley, I don't know, but I will make it hard for Cooper to sit down because we're going to be on his heels every day. We're going to remind the people of what he's done to the state, and we're going to beat him.
Are you going to be under pressure from Trump to get out?
I don't know. I mean, I love the president, and so if he wants to give me a call, he give me a call. But I want to try to help the president with a stronger nominee. It's kind of like you got 2 Christmas presents. Trump's got a Whatley box. You think it's going to be good. Here's a surprise present. It's going to be even better. We can give him a better present. That's our goal.
All right. Don's new book is Kangaroo Court. You can get that on Amazon?
Yes, you can. Certainly can.
And the Extortion 17 movie, how do you watch that?
Well, it's on Salem Media. The movie is called Fallen Angel Extortion 17, so you can watch it streaming online. It came out during COVID. We could have put it in theaters, but nobody was going to theaters. One day I'll bring it down here. We'll do a private showing for you, Henry. Would love to do that.
Are you one of these guys now that's made big money off of having your book turned into a movie? Did you get big movie royalties?
I wish that were the case, Henry.
You and Nicholas Sparks.
We go wherever you wanted to go for dinner tonight if that were the case. I'm still bumming off you. Thanks, brother.
Thank you for
God
driving
bless.
in from Charlotte to be on. Good
My
to see
pleasure
you.
always. Thanks.
The great Don Brown. Don's been a friend a long time. Best-selling author and now United States Senate candidate.